Senator from Kansas, Mr. Estes, is recognized.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Acting Secretary Hsu, for being here. I know you've been here for a long time, so I'll try to go through quickly with my comments. I know last week the Department of Labor issued the so-called retirement security rule, better known as the fiduciary rule. I have some major concerns about the substance and the impact of the rule, but I'll get to it in a minute. But the administration's rollout of the rule was also disappointing. I know several of my colleagues before have talked about how it was rolled out. There were only 45 business days. It was over a holiday period. So it really was not the appropriate approach of how do you get comments back for the comment period. But instead of talking about that, I want to talk about the White House in the rollout of that used the term eliminating junk fees as part of the reason for doing this. And that's the first time ever that annuities have ever been accused of having junk fees. And so clearly, I mean, my concern is there's just the propaganda aspect of that. Can you explain how that term applies to the proposed and the final rule? And if not for this rationale that the White House trying to hype some phrase, can you explain why there's no single reference to junk fees in any of the preambles for the proposed or the final rules?
Yeah, thank you, Congressman. So our public comment period was 60 days. We held 2 public hearings as well. We received 400 individual comments, over 400, and just under 20,000 petition submissions. And I will say again that public comment period is incredibly valuable. It's very important. We take into account the comments that we get, and we try to put out a rule that is achieves the goals of whatever that rule is.
So the junk fees is what I'm really wanting to focus on, not the number of comments.
That's a fair question. So our rule seeks to make sure that any retiree, an investor, that the advice they get from a financial advisor is in their best interest, not informed by conflicts of interest of the financial advisor. And one way that conflict of interest could come into play is that there could be a fee that the retiree has to pay.
Yes, but there's a difference, and I understand, and we would expect people to get paid a fee for providing a service. And I guess it's an insulting terminology that's used for folks that are actually trying to help people save for their retirement. And I take offense at the term junk fees being used in that manner. And I shift gears a little bit on this just from a standpoint of the cost as we're talking about fees. You know, just prior to the release of the fiduciary rule, the inflation numbers came out hotter again for the 3rd month in a row. Since President Biden's been in office, the cost of inflation on a monthly basis has gone up over 19%. And the Joint Economic Committee has determined that in my home state of Kansas, people are paying $1,000 more a month for the same food, the same rent, as they did in January of 2021. And wages are down 3.9% in terms of net wages since the president's come into office. So at a time when people are struggling to meet their daily needs with inflation, I'm concerned a little bit about the higher costs that are being applied to people that are trying to save. You know, there was a Deloitte study done after the earlier fiduciary rule was brought out that more than 10 million low and middle income individuals lost access to investment assistance during the short time that 2016 fiduciary rule is effective. I mean, I personally saw middle class savers who were having to pay more in fees because of that fiduciary rule. And fortunately, the Fifth Circuit rescued American people from that. And with this new rule, it seems like the administration's wanting millions of more people of lower and middle income to be able to lose access to investment assistance and have to spend more money to keep that access. So how many individuals does the department expect to lose access to investment because of the new fiduciary rule?
Well, Congressman, also to be clear, I wasn't referring to any fee that an advisor charges as being a junk fee. I'm referring to fees that are charged to an investor that would not be charged but for that conflict of interest, right? A fee that they're paying for an investment vehicle that is not in their best interest. But we certainly, our goal is to expand retirement security, not to shrink it. But
I guess my concern on this question was people losing access because of cost and because of the extra burden placed on the investment advisors.
Well, our hope is that by eliminating conflicts of interest, that retirement savers actually do better. Their investments are actually being put into vehicles that maximize their savings. And as was noted earlier, there are studies that show that just
I'm glad that's a shared hope, and I'm sorry to cut you off. I am out of time, and it just that prior studies, particularly the Deloitte study, shows people that have lost access, and that's my concern, that we're not helping people save for their retirement. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
The ranking member.